Hello, Gary McKendrick here, the Business Berserkers, episode 1, volume 1, call it what you want, it's going to be fun. I'm here with Emily Rose Alice Knowles.
Yes, you got it right.
The Mindset Goth and Doubt Slayer. I love that. We could talk about Slayer and heavy metal music for
Definitely
probably half an
could.
hour, but we
Definitely.
won't. We're here to talk about you, your story, and as I've been following you for a while, and I think you're fascinating and
Thank you very
inspiring, and it's a pleasure to be in the room with you.
Thank you very much.
So let's get on with it. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? You're a confidence coach, we know that.
Yes.
But did you always used to be confident?
No, I didn't. I was literally the opposite of confident when I was younger. Grew up a really quiet kid. When I was 8, I developed a mental health issue, and it kind of manifested itself in a really weird way. It was it's called trichotillomania.
Right.
It's basically a condition where you pull out your hair through anxiety.
Yeah.
And at the age of 8, I was basically bald, had no hair at all. And it's like, because you can't express yourself at that age, you don't understand depression or anxiety. I lost all of my confidence because I was bullied, obviously, no hair, doctor's appointments, and eventually, I think that had a knock-on effect, growing up.
Was it something that triggered that then? Do you remember?
I don't even remember what it was, to be honest, and I had a really lovely childhood, so I don't know what it was, but doctors think that it was just because I was quite clever and I wasn't able to kind of express myself. I wasn't getting properly, stimulated and stuff at school, so I just got very frustrated. It kind of carried on for a long time, the hair pulling, into secondary school, which is obviously worse. The bullying
worst
gets...
time,
Yeah, so I entered school feeling awful about myself, really unconfident, and I started to study NLP when I came across it through one of my therapists, and that's when I started to get fascinated with the brain. It's meant to be an incurable condition, but I actually managed to stop completely, and that's what I do a lot now. I work with women who've had the same condition and who haven't managed to recover from it, but I do think that's probably why, on some weird subconscious level, I've got bright red hair, because I want people to notice it straight away.
Yeah.
I'm proud of this. It's like my crown.
The theme is, though, that you sought help, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
You got a personal trainer, you got therapy, and it's similar to myself. I've had therapy as well, and I've worked with a PT, and you have to hold your hands up and say, I'm here today, but I'm not happy where I am now.
Yeah.
I want to change. I need help.
Yeah.
So that's where it's okay to ask for help, isn't it?
It's always okay to ask for help. Like, that's all. Every time I'm on social media, you see this new wave of comparative mindset. It's this weird, almost diagnosable mental illness with people comparing themselves to other people. You don't want to be the one who says, actually, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Because then you'll get singled out and people will think you haven't got your shit together, and they worry about the effect that'll have on their business.
Yeah.
I found the opposite. I find being real and raw and open with your struggles, people actually relate to you more.
Yeah.
And you find these people who are consistently trying to push this image that everything's okay and they've got their shit together, they're usually very ill because they're not dealing with stuff.
Yeah.
They've created an avatar and they almost have to hold on to it to the point it's detrimental to their own health, because they can't turn to anybody. You can't go from, I've just signed this and I've just done this and I've got this deal, to I'm not well, I'm worried about myself, and people don't talk openly about it.
Yeah.
And that's like one of my main messages. You have to ask for help.
Yeah.
And there's massive power in just being vulnerable.
Yeah.
There really is.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But there is a big taboo around, you see physical health and everyone just thinks of PE at school and a gym, don't you? But you see mental health.
Oh,
and it's
I know.
like, don't talk about that.
But literally all of us have suffered with some mental health issues at some point in time. And I've worked with some brilliant people, and I've worked with some big names. I've worked with people from all over. I work with women from all backgrounds as well. And you find that some of these women and these people who are powerful and they seem to have shit together, they do have their wobbles, you just don't see them.
Yeah.
So your brain becomes conditioned to comparing yourself to these people.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder we feel more alone now, even though social media is supposed to connect with. we're connected to a version of the person they want.
Yeah.
They're happy for us to see the version that they put out there.
Yeah.
But if we're saw behind the scenes, you know, it would be a really different story.
Oh, yeah,
it really would.
But you do fall into the social media trap, and you post all the happy pictures, and you know, I posted one on. I don't live my life on Facebook, but you know, I get involved.
Yeah.
And I posted a picture of us having a good family day out, and everyone's like liking, thumbs up, that looks brilliant. I thought, well, I'll bring it into reality, and I put, well, 3 seconds later, the young'un threw an absolute wobbler, and it was a nightmare in public. You know,
yeah, exactly.
That's reality, isn't it?
It is definitely. Like,
so yeah. We should maybe I don't, it might be not child friendly, but if your child's throwing a wobbler in the middle of the supermarket, take a picture and post that on social media.
People really don't, and I've got this group where I'll post pictures of myself literally just woken up. I'm quitting smoking now, to be totally honest. I'm struggling really badly.
Yeah.
I don't put that I smoke on Facebook very often, but in my group I've been really public. That was my New Year's resolution. 2nd of January, I'd smoked about 10 cigarettes at midday, and I was posting about it. I post pictures of myself with no makeup on. I had my cousin's baby in my arms 2 days ago, and she was gorgeous. Sick on us though. Posted that straight in the group. But you never see that reality, side of things, do you? And I think that's what people crave more now.
Yeah.
And with obviously there being actual diagnosable mental illnesses caused by social media, and you look at the links between entrepreneurs and mental illness, it's more rife in our community than any other little subculture. Yeah. And it's because we're all trying to be perfect. Yeah. Life isn't perfect. Like you say, you can have a nice family picture, 2 minutes later something could go wrong, kids on the floor screaming. You don't see that. Yeah. It's so important to share.
Let's post more pictures of kids screaming.
Yeah, that's the main message basically. When your kid's having an absolute wobbler, post it on social media.
So confidence coaching then, how does that work then?
Basically, I attract a lot of women especially who have like body confidence issues. Most of them have either had a daughter or somebody who's suffered from the hair pulling condition that I used to have. It varies, but I work mainly with entrepreneurs who kind of just see that I post, I'm quite zero bullshit about what I post and what I put out there, and they relate and they come to me. And usually these business issues like finding clients or doubting themselves or procrastinating massively before they just do something and launch something or do a call, when you actually break it down, it's confidence. Beneath everything, that it's the most important thing. If you have any kind of self-doubt, that's going to trip you up. But it's almost like the confidence side of things is it's not real. They don't really doubt themselves. They've learned there's lots of external things that are affecting them. It's not internal, because when you strip it all down, like in the interest of being real, it's like you are worried about what other people are going to think of you. It's not so much you don't believe in yourself. Like you were saying, you get nervous before you do things, and you wonder who are you to be doing certain things. And everybody does it, everybody questions it, but until you just do it and you put it out there, you'll never know. But,
so do you work with male clients as well?
I do, yeah. I've got quite a lot of male clients, and that just, I get along with everybody though. It's just, they're all my people. And that's another thing, when you put more of yourself out on social, you actually attract the people who you'll get on with naturally anyway. And if you put a fake version of yourself out there, I think that's where a lot of the depression starts to come in, because you attract the wrong clients and you have to keep up this, you know, fake version of yourself. And that becomes exhausting because you're having to constantly, you know, second guess yourself, and you can't trip up if you're being yourself. You can't possibly, you know.
You casually dropped into the conversation there that you had a breast removed.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
It was, obviously you go for your screening as a woman anyway when you've got a history of it. I didn't have a history of it. And I went for a screening and they found 3 lumps in this breast. They weren't cancerous, but they were precancerous, and they basically said, like, you've got the option to remove them and get it, you can't get it reconstructed on the NHS. So I had to pay for that. And it was just to be honest, it wasn't even a painful experience, like the operation, to be honest. I saw it as an empowering thing. Because for me, if I hadn't have randomly thought of it after a conversation with my mum, I wouldn't have went to the GP and said...
What age were you there?
I was 22, I think, 22, 23. I went to the GP and she sent me for a screening, and I thought it'll be nothing, but it was just that one conversation. I feel like if I hadn't had that whole experience, it's again identifying what's wrong, and this is what I do with everything in life. You identify the pain point, what's going wrong, you find a solution, then when you have to go through anything painful in order to get over it, like I did with the hair pulling, you kind of shine a light on the positives. So I caught it in time, it didn't become anything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be all right. And I got the surgery and I've never looked back, but it did give me a huge empathy for women who've had to go through, double mastectomies and other like surgeries, like women who've had cesareans. I get quite a lot of women who've had really bad scars and stuff like that, or even stretch marks, and it's given me another layer on my coaching where I can really empathise with people, and I feel like it's made me a better coach as well.
So it starts off with loving yourself and building that confidence, doesn't it? And we touched on it earlier. Exercise is a massive critical step in getting that, isn't it? So do you have like a daily routine that you stick to keep you on point every day?
I would like to say yes, but to be honest, this year has been completely different. Like my daughter's been ill and a few things, like life has happened, that's, I always say that, like I'm always going to be honest about it, but when I'm at my best, I wake up at 6 o'clock. I either go to the gym, or if my daughter's with me at home, I'll go to the sitting room and do like a body pump in the morning. Always walk the dog, get out in nature. It doesn't matter when it is. Have your calls or business stuff scheduled mid-afternoon or whenever your peak performances, and you can identify that by how you're working best at certain times of the day and stuff like that. Caffeine, I try not to have too much of. I know you've got an array of coffee and it was really exciting, but like caffeine, try and limit that. Movement, obviously, it gets your endorphins up. I always try, and I know it's really corny and strange, but to spend time with my pets, like every day, because they are just little endorphin. They're just absolutely love.
But then so life does get in the way, doesn't it?
Life happens,
it's important that we don't beat ourselves up just because we didn't, manage to read a chapter of a book, on or whatever.
And that's the thing, people start to get this stumble. Like if you noticed, especially with entrepreneurs, we'll go through these like weird cycles where we'll be doing really well, very productive, and then all of a sudden we'll get like something will go wrong. It could be something as simple as not managing to make a call on time or having to cancel a meeting because you're ill. And then for some reason, our brains go from 100 to, well, you're shit. And then you start to doubt yourself. And it's that mental stumble. And I always say, if you identify the start of that, this is why I always advise my clients to count their wins. So you always write down what you have done, even if it's
3 wins a day when you're journaling. Do you mean?
Even if it's just one, but like always recognize at the end of the day the things that you have done right. Even if it's just sending one email or replying to one message, it's getting that reward system up in your brain again, so that you don't fall under the I didn't do that, and you shine the light on that, and that does start to have that negative spiral, and people do fall, and it has a direct effect on your income and everything else, and obviously that's going to have a massive effect on everything else, and it does start.
And do you find that people focus on what they don't want rather than what they do want? Because I used to be like that,
100%.
It's like when you're learning to ride a motorbike, you look to where you want to be, don't you? Because if you look, when you're turning in the road and you're looking at the curb, you'll hit the curb.
Yeah, exactly.
So you look to where you want to be, but a lot of people get stuck at looking to where they don't want to be, and that's where they end up, isn't it?
Of course. I think there's a lot of people who do these courses where you kind of take yourself to a really dark place. So you look at what might have happened in childhood that would have made you the way you are and why you did certain things. And some people stay in that place, so they recognise where they went wrong. But they don't recognise that actually they've got the power at any moment in any day to change that and take control of it. And I do think people focus on what they don't want, and obviously when they're focusing on more, like let's say it's eating. You don't want to eat that, you don't want to eat that. When you're told you can't have something, you want it more. You really do. And I think that's what most people kind of lose sight when they're on that journey, but it is just, you can always make the decision to change at any moment.
Yeah, any time you like, isn't it? Just that one decision. You know, my one decision was, you know, in 2009, 13th of December 2009.
Brilliant.
I decided to give up drinking.
Yeah.
And that
was it.
That was the start of a snowball effect leading to where I am today.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
It's just amazing, that one decision. But often you find though that you know, the pain of change, people think is going to be worse, isn't it? Because change is painful, isn't it?
It is.
You know, you've got to
Scary.
do things you've never done before. It's the unknown.
Yeah.
If you've sedated yourself with drugs, alcohol or food, all of a sudden you take that away, you're very, very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's scary as well.
It is scary.
I remember thinking that, you know, the day I gave up drinking, it would all be Mary Poppins and rainbows and unicorns, but it wasn't. It actually got worse. But that's when the help comes in, and I got some cognitive behaviour therapy for about 9 months. So again, it comes back to, you know, working out what you want, but then getting help to get it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And people don't really recognise either that when you're in that place, you know, you feel vulnerable, you're scared of the change. It's actually like a weird survival thing that we've all got built into our heads, where if something's familiar, we want to stay there because we feel like it's safe. We know that, don't we? We know the alcohol, we know the food, we know the pattern. Yes, we're miserable about it, yes, we complain all the time, but we don't know what's beyond that. So it's almost like we self-sabotage a little bit. We almost get to the point where we're ready and then we think, I don't know what's on the other side of this. So we kind of stop ourselves, but that's why it's so important to have a good support network around you.
And failure is part of the process, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You know, people can beat themselves up because of it, and the doubts start creeping in.
Oh, aye.
But you know, I've made a few failures over the last 8 years. You know, have you any good ones?
You know what, honestly, the most raw one, I'll be totally honest, I failed as a mum for the first few months of my daughter's life because I wasn't around for her. I wasn't happy in myself. I had the postnatal depression. I was breastfeeding, so I couldn't go on antidepressants. I felt utterly crap. I wasn't obviously sleeping very well because you've got a newborn baby who's up every 2 hours. And I was miserable. That's a massive failure. But if I hadn't had that 6 months of it being difficult and then eventually have the strength to ask for the help and the support, and I started to bottle feed my daughter, which is another thing I talk about with women because there's so much pressure to breastfeed, and I think it's bullshit. As long as you and the baby are happy. Breast
is best and all that.
Oh God, honestly, fuck off with that. I hate it. It's just like.
But formula is fine.
Honestly, it's just like there was so much
Second
pressure.
rate.
There was, and as soon as I started bottle feeding her, I felt happier, and I felt almost guilty to admit it. And then I had this new relationship with my daughter, and ever since it's been so perfect. But I think if I hadn't had that initial failure, I wouldn't have appreciated the massive win of actually, this is how it's meant to be, and I'm doing this my way, and the way I'm most comfortable with it. It's my daughter, I'll raise her the way I want, and it's like taking that again, it's ownership, it's empowering. And even now, that has been the biggest lesson for me, that, and it's not necessarily a failure, but I wasn't being true to myself with what I wanted to do and the way I wanted to do things with her. And it was that whole 360 turnaround of that relationship.
Yeah, I was going to say it's maybe a bit harsh to say it was a failure, but certainly an adversity.
I think I failed myself because I wasn't totally honest with what I wanted to do, and it was difficult. And she had jaundice, so she was like, she needed to feed more often, and I needed to wake her up for feeds and all the rest of it. And it was just like, as well as your baby's normal routine of waking up, and you've got two, haven't you? So can you imagine how exhausting that was to actually having to wake yourself up when she wasn't even like, you know, waking up herself. It was difficult.
Well,
but
I had the easy job being the man.
Yeah, very true, very true.
But interestingly, though, there is a certain pressure on men when they become fathers as well. To you know, certainly the entrepreneurial type. Definitely. You know, they're now the provider and having to deal with the emotions of the mum at home. And that's
and the
quite
lack
a
of
difficult
sleep
time
and
as
everything
well.
else. It is, and obviously when it all rests on you, you can't have the standard 2 weeks off, can you? You've got to just keep on going. That's why I always say it's really good to, during the pregnancy, and I have a lot of like new dads come to me during the pregnancy, you know, when the woman has this nesting instinct where it'll kick in for her and she'll get everything ready. And for some reason the guys don't clock on to actually this is happening imminently. Like any moment your baby's going to be here and it's going to, you know, throw a massive curveball at everything. Actually over prepare and use things like buffer, have statuses ready to post, have your emails ready, and like bulk it all up a little bit so that you've got a little bit of leeway, because chemically you're not going to be focused, you know, your levels are all off, it's a huge shock. You haven't had it growing inside you, so it's just this new person just arrives and like your lack of sleep and everything, it's horrendous. But a lot of guys don't prepare for that moment, and it's like you've got to recognise as well, when it is all on your shoulders, it's also your responsibility to, you know, have things ready in place, and don't be too bloody harsh on yourself.
No. And it doesn't have to, it doesn't ruin your world at all. I remember when we had our first Sophie, she's 5 now, but someone said to us, I already enjoyed the gym at that point in my life, someone said to us, oh, you're not going to be able to go to the gym when you've got children, you know. Yes, I will, because I value my health and I'll make time to do it.
Yeah,
you know, and again, people use children as an excuse not to do something.
Of course they do.
Or there's all sorts of nonsense they tell themselves.
They do. Yeah.
So do you work on any form of exercises that, you know, gets people to get all the stories out of their head of why they haven't achieved something?
It's just it's usually a long conversation. It depends on when the person's ready to open up. And eventually you'll mention something that'll trigger them to be like, you know, when you have that kind of word vomit where it's just instantly, it just all pours out and you can't stop it. You have like them open up, and it's usually just 1 or 2 things that are holding them back. Yeah. But it's the excuses. It's like, my parents were shit, so I feel like I can't work. I haven't got a good work ethic because my dad didn't work. Like, right, so how long ago was that? Let's say like, you know, 25 years. Yeah. Right, so how does that apply to you now? And people do hold on to the weirdest excuses for things, and they'll make it so though, they'll hold on to it and they'll make their reality. But again, it's that safety thing. Yeah. It's whatever's familiar to them. Yeah. And they hold on to it and they just push it as an excuse, and they hold it as reality. But until you break it down and you shine a light on it, like, I can't remember what my excuse was. My dad used to say something that really got on my nerves. Before he made a cup of tea, he'd kind of like groan and say, oh, I'll make myself a cup of tea. And my excuse for never making him a cup of tea was because I was really spiteful and like, you're lazy. And I held on to that for years. And then it was when I started to do the work that actually, just something really simple like that, but when you start to work on little things and you turn it around, it's like, I was being lazy for not making me goddamn dad a cup of tea. He raised me for years. Yeah. Who am I?
You think when it comes to stress, is some stress good?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, when I'm cheering at sports day and I'm really stressed that Friday's not first in the race, that's like, you know, it's exciting. Yeah. But I do think that a lot of people view stress as a negative thing, you know, when they're stressing about not moving forward or progressing. That's the negative kind of stress, and that's obviously going to trigger some sort of reaction in your brain. It's probably doubt. And when you're stressed to the point of fight or flight, you know, you can either freeze up or you can do something completely reactionary. That's wrong. But I think, I wouldn't say it's a positive kind of stress, but just like passion and drive. Like if you're stressed about, you know, a deadline, you're probably going to get there as long as you turn that around into a positive. So let's say I had to type up 4 articles by tomorrow. That's stressful because I like to take my time. Yeah. So I could either totally freeze up and not know what to do and be completely useless, or I could use the passion and actually look through all of my old stuff and start to research new things and just look into my stories, and that pressure could actually, you know, make me do my best work. Yeah. And people are usually one way or the other. Like, I'm quite good under pressure. I quite like it. And some people do the exact opposite, and it depends on your personality, really.
Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's been awesome. Could have talked for hours.
I know.
It's been fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.